Hey everybody, welcome to the Boring Enterprise nerds. How do you want to call this? Our our
So
newsletter
no,
prep, our
yeah,
newsletter nerd prep issue extravaganza
official
for
brand name is
yeah.
Nerdletter Talk. So it's
Oh, okay. Oh
yeah,
man, dude.
pre-newsletter
Oh
discussion.
man, I am way off brand. Our
Yep.
our SEO is going to go to crap now because I didn't say the right
Yep.
name.
Yep. Oi, oi,
Um,
oi.
so I'm Paul Moderman. This is Yelena Perfilieva. And what we do is we just share the things we're going to probably write about in our next version of the newsletter. So I'll kick off and share a few things, and then Yelena will hopefully interrupt me and say interesting things as I share things. And I'll do the same to her when she goes.
As
Okay,
usual.
so let me share
Right.
my screen. And so I'm going to share three things. I'll share two websites and just one sort of reflection thing I'm thinking about. So the first thing I want to share, I write about this is the called the boring report.
Mm-hmm.
So I keyed on it. First thing I keyed on was just, hey, it shares like a name with us, right? It's a boring something.
Mm-hmm.
But what it is it uses AI to turn sensationalistic writing into just plain writing. So
Hmm.
like news articles and things like that have like that are kind of amped up on like fiery words and like I don't know what you want to call it, like
Like, oh my God.
yeah. Oh no, the bees are all gonna attack your dogs and stuff, right? Like just like it removes that kind of thing
Mm.
and it gives you sort of a little bit more bare bones even keel kind of language. And I reflect on it because you and I we put out a newsletter, right?
Yeah.
We contribute to this problem ourselves. um but also I kind of wanted to kind of get on the diet for a little bit and see how it feels, right? Because at least for me, I read the news because I want to know the information.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily want to be razzle dazzled, except maybe under the covers I do want to be razzle dazzled, right? Maybe under the covers I do want to be entertained by the news
Mm.
and have my blood pressure go up when I read about whatever, right? And so like I just kind of want to like monkey around with that and see how it feels. So I'll review the app. I'll see if it can even ingest one of our newsletters and see
Mm.
how it puts it in there. I don't know how it works for that, but I'll find out about that and see kind of how it goes for when this gets its claws on the sensational news. But I thought it was an interesting use of AI to hopefully be a beneficial thing and not just a like everybody increase your productivity by 10% and now all the oil barons are richer, right?
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want to use it for cool stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one thing for me.
And I think everything with boring in the name automatically gets a feature.
Yeah, it's a genius marketing move, I tell you.
Yep.
Genius.
Genius. Yes, they were shooting for it. Sweet.
um the other one, I just got this email today and you and I talked about it briefly on Slack.
Mm-hmm.
ASUG Tech Connect. And this is really like I don't know how long it's been the plan. I don't know how long it's been in the works, but clearly it is at least connected to the idea that this year and who knows for the future, probably for a long time in the future, SAP Tech Ed is not in person in North America at all,
Yeah.
which is a apart from the pandemic, that's a departure from decades of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't even know when the first decade was, but like it's been it was in various places for a while, and then it was in Vegas for a
Mm-hmm.
number of
Mm-hmm.
years. And now there's some voices here and there on Twitter and other places kind of raising their fists in defiance and saying, no, it should be everywhere. It should be Europe and should be North America. It should be Asia Pacific and all this kind of stuff. Um, well, I guess it is Bangalore, so they do have Asia Pacific covered, but like
Mm-hmm.
the there are voices screaming for it to be elsewhere, and I think this could be a new spin on that stuff because the last tech ed I went to, which was last year, was a departure from the other tech eds that
Yeah.
happened before.
Mm,
And I don't even necessarily mean that in a bad way, although I think the other ones before were probably a bit more cool and exciting. But
yeah.
what I do mean is that it's a chance to reinvent what was maybe becoming stale anyway, you know?
Mm.
So it's gonna be fall in I don't think it even has a location yet.
Yeah, just announced it. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button in time. I don't think it has a location yet, but I signed up for the updates. Anybody seeing this video, if you're interested, sign up for the updates too. But I I have an opinion. I have some opinions about tech stuff connecting and in-person experiences, and some opinions about SAP versus ASUG versus whoever kind of doing this stuff. So definitely gonna write about that stuff.
Yeah, and
Um,
I have lots of opinions as well.
yeah,
I was one
please
of those. Yeah.
please see Yelena at large
Yeah.
on Twitter for opinions
For more
on TechEd.
opinions on ticket.
For your daily opinions on TechEd, see Yelena's Twitter feed.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you see there is actually petition from Europe to
yeah,
have that event? So that's
it
people are
has
clearly
it
very
it
passionate about this subject.
it crossed over 200, I think, didn't it? It might even be even more.
When I signed it, it was already close to that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
I'm sure it crossed over. So I don't want to kind of spoil your coverage. I just
No,
wanted to
it's
add
okay.
just one thing to that. As I was watching Sapphire's conference that just closed, it was in person in Orlando, and it was, from what I could see, I didn't attend myself, but I was watching the keynote. I could see the audience, so it was pretty full. And one of the first things that SAPCO said, it's like, oh, how nice to be here, kind of in person, and talk to our partners and our customers and colleagues and all of that. And I'm like, well, gee golly, yeah, of course it's nice, but now
Yeah,
with Stackit, now we don't have this opportunity for some
yeah,
reason. You just got it, and you're not giving it
yeah.
to actual tech workers who actually run your SAP
That's the
systems. That kind
that's
of ouch. Yeah.
that's one of the things that I kind of wanted to write about or think about here is that like and some of the discussion you and I were having before we started the call
Mm-hmm.
too, which was a little more private, so I don't share that. But like, there's techiness. I guess I'll just say it. Some of the techiness is kind of outflowing the room,
Mm-hmm.
right, in the SAP
Mm-hmm.
world. In my view, I think there's maybe, and it's being recreated on the fringes, which is could be cool in its own right. Um, but it seems like there's a little bit less gas in the tank from SAP's perspective to be, I'll just say it, to be tech innovators, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more application and platform and I don't know other things, but I don't know. My thoughts are still forming on that. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it just the world changes as it always does, and
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a positive change in the sense that there is new new life in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that ASUG can bring some
Yeah.
superpowers to it. So the
Yeah.
other thing, and the reason I stopped sharing is the other thing I was going to talk about is Sapphire, but there wasn't any particular website I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to share with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the chance to go, so I have some thoughts on the announcements,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which especially the like there was some Microsoft stuff and some Success Factors stuff and that kind of stuff from the generative AI stuff. Which of course, if you're if you're even an occasional reader of the newsletter, you know that I always talk about that stuff anyway. Um, but I also, since I was there, I've also got some vibe thoughts too. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you some like vibe. I'll give you a vibe check. Everyone gets a vibe check from Paul on the boots on the ground
Yeah.
scenario. Like my EDM concert was really chill, so it was good.
Sweet.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
that is my stuff for this week.
All right. Cool. All right. Then I will share my stuff. And so one of my first stories for this issue is based on this very short video, which I I suspect is relatively new YouTube channel, Native Web. They call this types of video developers dictionary. And here is a really in very short time frame, it's just 13 minutes. They talk about some terminology and what they think it means. And in this specific video, I really liked how they packed a lot of information and opinion about data, kind of data world. They start with talking about data warehouse, where everything started. It was this beautiful dream of nicely structured data that really didn't quite materialize. And then companies started talking about data lakes, where the idea was, well, we cannot really structure data, so we're just going to dump it into that lake, and then somehow by some magic it's going to be sorted out. Obviously, that's not going to happen either. So now data meshes, and I have written about data mesh a little bit before, but it's not going to be like another piece about data mesh. It's just about, I think I completely agree with his thoughts and perspective on all those data issues. And I think the main takeaway from this was that technology is out there, but really, if you have messy and structured data that no one really knows what it means, there isn't really any technology that can help you. I think it's just a delusion that you can just somehow put the data somewhere else, and without telling any tool what you want to do with it and what it means, that somehow we'll just figure it out. So I thought that his explanation was just really good. So it's I'm probably talking more about this video than video itself, but yeah. So it's very interesting subject, and I think many developers who not necessarily deal with data, like big data per se, I think they will find it very interesting as well. Second item,
I wanted to jump in here
Paul
because
has opinion about data.
Well, actually, so part of half of my job, or more, depending on what week it is paying attention to the Microsoft ecosystem, right? And they just had Build this week, which is a pretty cool conference for a lot of the techie stuff that they get up to. And so part of the stuff announced at Build was along these very lanes. They are announced a thing. I don't know if it's in release to customers yet, but it's called One Lake. So
okay,
Yelena, yeah, like you might have the great, and I don't know all the details of it, but like you might have the Great Lakes of data, but you could really boil them all into one lake now.
Yeah.
Right, Elena. So I don't know if that's what actually it is. But also, just like the mesh, there's also a product called Microsoft Fabric. So not mesh, but fabric.
Fabric. Okay.
Right. So be prepared to have like the mess of the data world. Like it's like at some point, you know how like if you at some point Google had this problem of like the table that holds all our tables is too big of a table, right? Like at some point the table that holds the data products is going to be big enough to be a big data by itself, right? So there's just like the Cambrian explosion of like data products just ever, like you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a data lake product somewhere, right?
Yeah. And yes, SAP with their data. What was that data sphere?
Oh, they have data sphere.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
All right. Right. So data. So second one, I actually wanted to write about another subject at first, but I think that has been covered enough. And this came out really at the last minute. I'm like, I just need to write about this. This is something that I find very interesting and annoying at the same time. So this is about tribal knowledge in development and tribalism, and also a little bit about the hero culture in IT. So I think it's a very interesting article. It's from the newsletter Chamber of Tech Secrets that is also hosted on Substack, and it's written by Brian Chambers. He is some kind of architect at Chick-fil-A restaurants in the US. Everyone, I think, at least in the South, must be familiar with them. So it's it was first issue of his newsletter, and it's just a very interesting story, and his thoughts on this tribal knowledge and just lack of documentation, and how sometimes we encourage bad things in development practices. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. It's interesting read by itself, and I hope that my thoughts on it will be equally interesting. So
Oh,
that's
we can only hope.
yeah. All right. And my third subject, that's kind of loosely
Oof.
some thoughts about
Oof.
clean
This
core.
one. Oof.
So clean core, it's a huge subject of conversation.
Huge.
Suddenly it came up again. It's as this so this is a blog post on SAP community. This came out actually beginning of May.
Mhm.
And there is a second which is came out slightly later. That is a follow-up. So another person just wrote their thoughts kind of on the same subject and referencing this blog. I did read both of them. They're pretty long, but I think that all the points raised by both blogs are very valid. Um, at the same time, I've also got a chance to attend presentation about clean core that was meant for the SAP partners. So it was through SAP partner channels.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say, I'm not sure if there wasn't any statement that it was a confidential session, but I'm guessing content maybe was meant for partners. So obviously I'm not going to use any of that, but I can say there wasn't really any revelation. But what I did notice is that Clean Core was around since I think this blog says 2018 or so, but I think maybe even earlier. And
Yeah.
originally, I think everyone felt the idea of Clean Core was like, do not modify SAP code, just use proper APIs. It seemed pretty
Yeah.
simple idea, actually. I
Yeah.
think it's a good idea if you take it in
Yeah.
such a simple way. But then from that latest partner presentation, I was very lost on what exactly SAP means now in 2023 by this
Mhm.
clean core
Right.
concept.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I'm a little bit lost why it's gotten so complicated all of a sudden. And yeah, I think I have some concerns. I think both of those authors, they had some concerns as well. Like this is clearly kind of catchy title and yeah, statement considered harmful. I think his point is that if you take it as a exactly as stated, as if you have to now suddenly change everything, then it probably, yeah, dramatically
Mhm.
deciding it's
Yeah.
probably bad and costly idea. And I
Yeah.
agree completely. I think
Mhm.
some of those statements, they're just I don't know, over exaggerating maybe the real issue, and not necessarily it should trigger some kind of action like right now. So yeah, I think
I
maybe
just I
yeah.
you know I did a podcast with my boss at Bodark, James Wood,
Mm-hmm,
and I think it was just he and I, and we do episodes where we just like sit around and talk about whatever, and
mm-hmm,
it's super gripping. Everybody should listen to that, by the
mm-hmm,
way. But shameful self plug there. But like I think the title of the post was like, is it even possible to have vanilla ERP?
yeah.
Right? And part of it was just like what I couldn't wrap my head around was, or what I still find hard to understand about, like when just when you even think about like all the times that I know that both of our companies have approached even just like sales order entry style
Mm-hmm,
of
mm-hmm,
problems, right?
mm-hmm,
Where like if 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 all of the hundreds of thousands of SAP customers wind up needing to do something unique in terms of sales, or just sales order entry, not
mm-hmm,
the other stuff. How is it at all possible that all of these different businesses can keep a huge system like SAP fully and completely spotlessly clean
mm-hmm,
of things, unless they just want to become SAP essentially,
yeah.
right? Like
Mm-hmm,
there's I think there's just something to be said for like a business is a business because it's unique,
mm-hmm,
right? If a business wasn't unique in some way, why would it exist? You know what I mean? And
yeah.
that uniqueness, sometimes it just comes out in how your software has to work, you know? And so, like, So the point we were trying to get to, and I don't think we made, but we were trying to get to it was like, is it is it really possible to do what you want to do with ERP software
Mhm.
and yet keep it vanilla, clean, spotless of the little warts and bruises that just pop
Mhm.
up over your lifetime of that software? And I don't even know, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's possible, but I don't think it's even necessary. I mean, the whole point
Mm,
of like big ERP systems, if you don't need to, if you can somehow live with it, yeah, of course, just don't customize anything. But I think customizations are fine. But that's where I think those maybe confusing clean core statements are just again confusing to everyone. Like, what does it
yeah,
even mean? Some people
yeah,
considering it's, oh, do we even not allowed to like do customizations in Pro? And this, I think this
right.
post actually talks about this exact issue of terminology that
The terminology is
yeah, it's
yeah,
just super fuzzy. There are suddenly different words for the same thing, or the same word suddenly means different things. And
mm,
SAP likes to talk, for example, about extensibility these days. I'm to be honest, sometimes not even sure what exactly does
I
it
know.
mean because
I don't know.
like 10 years ago, like
Yeah,
you would tell me extensibility, I would think it's like, okay, we have like BAPI and there is like BAPI XT something structure
yeah,
where if I want to place sales order and I need to fill in my custom fields, that's where I would put it. So
yeah,
I extend SAP standard. I just add my fields as SAP allows to do that
yeah,
through some kosher ways, not by
yeah,
modifying, but through like extensions, etc. That's what it is. But now, like, no, you know, you put it in BTP, like, boof, like go away with your custom fields in our table. So I don't know. It is just super weird and super confusing. And I think these two blogs have really great point. And oh, I just wanted to to share. So this second post, it's funny. It talks about OC Cleaners TV show. And actually, I found it. It's a real TV show from a few years ago. It's
interesting,
obsessive compulsive cleaners talks
interesting.
about, yeah, people just cleaning their houses. So they had some funny reflections on like that show and comparing it to some of what SAP is talking and their history going back to like 2018 tickets and on all the
Mm,
times when SAP talked about clean core before, because it's been long conversation. Actually, it's just
mm.
suddenly this year reappearing in completely new way somehow. So yeah, take it from SAP. They take the same word and suddenly give it new meaning, and now everyone is confused again. So yeah, so there you
Totally
go,
true.
folks.
Totally true.
Yeah, you've you've heard it here first. So yeah.
All right, guys. You heard it. Yeah, like Yelena said, you heard it here. This is what's coming to you, unless we decide to write something else, which we will, because you're not the boss of us, and we can write what we want. So
Yeah.
whatever. But we'll see you in the newsletter, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.